Hey guys, I just wanted to make a quick video about working with image planes in Maya, namely a couple different ways to make them, and then specifically how to retime, adjust the timing of your image sequence in Maya. I was helping a student with this recently, so I figured I would make a quick video to clarify a few things. So I've got a little scene set up here. There's at least two different ways, like with almost everything in Maya, to make an image plane. If I'm just here in my camera view and I go to View, Image Plane down here at the bottom, I can do Import Image. We navigate to my sequence. I can just check the first frame in my sequence. So in terms of naming, I like to do name dot number dot extension. Maya's pretty finicky about this, I think. So when you're saving out and generating your sequence, what I find works best is name dot number dot extension. I like to use PNGs, but JPEGs and other formats I believe work as well. You can actually bring in alpha channels if you use a PNG if you need to, but for the sake of this, where we're just talking about animation reference, that's not going to be relevant. If you're using like a plate or something for like a VFX shot, that might be a whole different ball of wax. But so I'm going to hit open. So this creates my plane. As you see, it's like way over here. But I have these attributes here to reposition this. So right now the depth is just too far. So if I set my depth to 1, now it's right in front of my camera. You can see that moved in perspective here. It moved really close. But obviously it's blocking everything, so I don't want that. So I can adjust my size. I'm just control middle shift dragging for X and Y to scale both of those together. And then I can use these offsets to position it where I want it so it's not blocking my action. But if I scrub right now, this is literally just one single image, so that's not very useful to me. So I'm gonna hit Control A to bring up the attribute editor. And what we're looking for here, I want to check this use image sequence. And so what that does is that actually creates an expression on this image number field that now you can see my image is advancing here. It creates an expression that basically switches to play one image per frame. And that's all fine and good if I'm using this at regular speed and this is the proper frame rate and I know I don't need to make any adjustments to it. But if I want to have more control over this, I'm going to want to actually break that expression and just make my own keyframes on the image sequence. So what I could do is I'll just right click in the little box here and do delete expression. One thing that's useful to note here is right now my timeline is actually starting on 1. If I was starting on something different, if my timeline started on something different, I could use this frame offset to adjust accordingly, but I'll talk a little more on that in a second. But so right now I do want to use frame 1, image 1, right, 001 PNG as my first frame. So I'm going to right click here and set key. If you want to actually see this in your timeline, you can just hit select at the bottom, because at first it won't actually, these keyframes won't actually show up. So, and then here on frame 120, I want to be on image 120. So we're still just like the expression going 1 image per frame. And then make sure I key that. Yeah, auto key is on. So as you see, like I said, this isn't showing at the bottom, but if I hit select, wait, that's supposed to show when I hit select. All right, ignore that. So one thing I want to show though is if I go to the right now it's in theory doing the same thing that my image sequence was doing, but because I have auto tangent on, it set these two keys with an ease in and an ease out, right, with these flat tangents at the beginning. So I want this to be either if I just have 2 keys, I want this to be linear and or spline will do it with 2 keys. So right now what I have is, you watch the numbers again. Once I set it to linear, I have an even 1-to-1 correlation relationship between my keyframe I'm on and what image it's showing me. So this is a great start. At this point we've just used a keyframe solution to the expression that it was using before. So if I want to go in here though and change the timing of my image plane, right? Say he's going too fast, or I do want him to hold a little bit at the beginning. Now I can treat this just like any other, just like any other spline curve. And I can insert keys, delete keys. I can change the timing if I want it to slow down in the middle for a little bit, and then maybe I want it to actually skip a number of frames, and jump up and then go again. I could start manipulating this and playing with the timing and actually retime my reference. Maybe I do want that slow in at the end, so I can go in here and actually start adjusting a lot of things. So it's really powerful to, if you shot it pretty close to right, but you want it to go through a part quickly in the middle, right? So that becomes, oh, that's why, because I have this offset selected. That's why nothing's showing. So if I have nothing selected in the channel box and I hit that select that I showed you before, now I get my keys showing up here. I only had one channel selected, so it wasn't showing any keys on that. So now, like I say, you can manipulate that both in the timeline and in the graph editor. So if I want a little more time here, and then I want to skip this up, skip past a lot of those middle frames and then kind of slow into the end of that, I can really start to change my timing. And another actually interesting thing to do with this, if you're just blocking something out and you just want to grab the key frames from your reference without kind of being bogged down with a bit of information, to kind of prevent yourself from just sort of rotoscoping your reference. One thing I like to do is in Sync Sketch or a program like that, go in and actually star which images, which frames of my reference. I can just draw a little star on it on Sync Sketch before I save out the image sequence of what my key poses are. And then when I come in, I can just set a keyframe. I can set a keyframe. Key attributes. Sorry. On each of those frames, say frame 40 is a key, right? And then I like this pose as he shifts over is a key. Then the contact maybe here is a key. Then this passing pose maybe. You get the point. So I just go and can define what just my keys are. I'm just stepping through just what those keys are. And then something useful to do is actually just go and put this on stepped, and it will literally only play those keys, right? And it'll just hold in between, so I don't get bogged down with kind of rotoscoping every little thing that's happening. So that's another quick tip of how you can identify what your poses are and then have it just play those in your blocking stage, because we can sometimes find ourselves relying too much on reference and trying to copy every little thing. So that's that. The other thing I want to show you is just another way to create your image plane. I'm going to delete this one. There's also a thing, if you go up here under Create, you can go to Free Image Plane. And that just makes the image plane that's not connected to a camera. It's not, by default, it just comes in like a default resolution and everything. But if we do the same thing, we go to the attribute editor, and I can go here to image name and point it to actual sequence. Point it to my same sequence, right? Use image sequence, same thing like before. We could kill the expression in a minute, but for right now, I'm just showing you another way to attach this. So if I created one like this, say I already had my camera set up, or for whatever reason I didn't want to create it through the camera, what I'd like to do is actually group this, because this will just give me another way to interact with this later. And then I want to bring it to my outliner, right? I want to group my or parent constraint rather, my group to my camera. So I want to select the camera, then shift select the or control select in this case the group. Then under animation, I'm just going to go to constraints. I'm going to parent constrain this without maintain offset on, because I actually want it to snap to where my camera is. So if I add that, right now it's actually so close to my camera that I can't see it here. But now I can just select the image plane, not the group. Make sure I've unselected the group, because the group is what's actually constrained. but I have a level below that that's just the image plane, so I can move it however I want. So now, without having to use those channels on the side, you still have all those depth channels and stuff that come with an image plane, but now you can actually just move this like like you usually would. But it is perfectly aligned to my camera right now, just as before. But I can scale and translate and rotate this without having to adjust it with these channels. So this is just another way to interact with it and really do exactly the same thing. All the stuff I showed before with the breaking of the expression, and setting the keyframes is the same. So for example, real quickly, what if my shot started on frame 100? A lot of studios will start on like 100 or 1,000 even. So let's say I started on 1001 and then it went to 1120 was my frame range, right? As you see right now, nothing's on my screen because it's run out of images to go through with the expression. So again, we're going to do the same thing where we delete the expression, and then on frame 1001, I want to key it on 1, and then here I want to key it on 120, and now I get the same thing. Again, I want to set this to get a true, representation of my timing at first. I want to set this to linear. So I'm getting 1 for 1. But if I go back a couple steps, say I was just using it with the expression and didn't need to break it, but I need this to show, and I'm in this high frame range, even though my images are numbered starting at 1. All I do is just put in a frame offset. So if I offset this, frame offset. Do I need to go negative? No. There we go. I think I put too many. Messed up my math. Okay. So I can just offset it, basically moving it in time, 1,000 frames. And then I have the same thing. But again, if you're manually entering your keys, once you delete the expression, then you can keep that offset on 0 and then just, manually, like I said, make this frame 1. Then 120. 120, and key that. And there you go. And then the other thing, obviously, I talked about manipulating these curves, but you can also obviously just do a basic retime of that. So say I had more frames than 120. In this case, I actually do. So I can actually make this go up, even higher and play more frames. It's going to be playing faster now because by frame 120, I'm actually on image 225. But so that's just the same sense of being able to control what's happening to the way it's playing back the image sequence. So if you have more frames than your shot allows, but you want it to actually play fast or play slower, etc., you have all of that control as well. If I only want to play 60 of the frames or however many, I can just have this really slow playback, of the entire sequence. So I hope that's helpful. Leave any additional questions in the comments, but I think that might help out a few people who are a little confused with how they can bring in an image plane and then control and manipulate the speed and the playback of that to have a little control over your blocking, and then also that tip with the step blocking for just focusing on your key poses, which is actually a pretty nice thing starting out. So everyone take care and good luck out there.